Projection is a common term used in psychology, and what it can mean in a particular connotation is taking elements of oneself that one does not like, expelling them outward, and finding them in other people. So, for instance, I don't admit, and I don't like the fact that I'm angry or can get angry. So I see it in a lot of other people, but not in myself. I'm full of hate myself. I don't acknowledge it. I don't see it, but I see everybody around me as hateful. I am very greedy, but I certainly don't see it, nor grant it concerning me, myself, and I. But I do see it in you, and everybody else. So this is a known kind of psychological mechanism, but some nuances can be here added. Some complexities can be discussed. One thing to say is that far from it being undesirable that we eject elements out of our self that we do not like, it can be argued that that process of such ejection is absolutely essential to any possibilities of becoming the kind of person that we want to be. Meaning, by self can be meant many things. And obviously, those are big questions in the deepest kind of existential philosophical sense is what is a self and such. But in a particular kind of at least practical functional sense, a self is something that clearly does develop over time in connection with experiences, in connection with action, in connection with education, in connection with what we think and what we feel and such. And consequently, um, instead of by self meaning some kind of hard little atom, like a little dot that's impermeable and that's absolutely kind of set apart from any and all other such selves, we can think of a self as a sort of perimeter set on some or another quantity of content. And again, this is just a particular interpretation of the term, far from being the only one or the main one or the most important one. Just a particular such interpretation, meaning I can, to some or another extent, choose kind of the lines defining myself. That's what makes, for example, real human relationships possible. A real human relationship differs from a relationship between a person and an object because an object is always, or should be always, interpreted as being the not self. If we take an object to be a self, such as maybe with artificial intelligence, we're playing ourself. We're would anthropomorphizing be the term, some term like that, especially for technology. So the object is supposed to be a not self, but a person can enter into our sense of self. I can expand my sense of self to include my family members, where when I do good things for my family members, it's not so much that I'm doing them for you, right? I'm here and you're there, and we're going to keep tallying, we're going to keep score, tit for tat. What did you do? What did I do? I'm just doing them for myself, right? In some sense. Hopefully not for my egoism, but for myself in a broader sense. So we can, we do, and we should kind of play with the perimeter of ourself. Into that perimeter can come in tremendous amount of content, historical content, social content, again, relational content, ideational content, ideas, and so forth. And just as importantly, if not more importantly, would be the question of what is expelled from that perimeter. What is expelled from my sense of self? We see, for example, that it is easy and tempting enough to, when we hear of people that do horrendous things and people that have very unfortunate fates in the human sense, meaning lives that end in tragically um, things like murder, suicide, and so forth. It's tempting to think and easy to think that those people have a fundamentally different nature than do I. There's nothing in me at all that could ever be like that. Period. There's just a hard wall between us. That's not reasonable. Right? All people have a similar, if not in some sense, the self a self same nature. And it's just that, it's not no just about it. It's a serious thing, but it is that people can develop in different directions. And consequently, even if some of the seeds of sordid deeds, meaning bad deeds and kind of bad destinies in me have not sprouted, thankfully, even if I have not proceeded down any number of putrid paths, meaning bad paths, it is still the case that those elements are in me. Right? It's just that they are at present, hopefully, part of my not self. And they should stay as part of my not self. I should not take into myself uh, murderous appetites, right? Uncontrollable urges and inappropriate urges, all kinds of countless dysfunctional mindsets, awful attitudes. All of that should remain very far from myself. It should be extraneous to myself. What here, however, is the issue? The issue would be that such expulsion of unwanted elements from myself cannot occur by fiat, meaning by order. I cannot simply order something out of myself, state that it does not exist, and that's it. That's not how it works, because myself seems to be a real thing. It's not purely a product of, or at all, a product of fantasy. My self concept can be, and often is, a product of fantasy, how I conceptualize myself. But myself itself seems to be a real thing, just like my body is a real thing. And we say that just as with the body, I cannot just say, flat feet be gone, uh, acne be gone, and so on. I need to do something about it usually, or always. Just so in myself, I can't just say, this bad part of me be gone, and it's gone. This bad attitude be gone, and it's gone. This uncontrollable appetite be gone, and it's gone. This part of my character, this part of my nature, this deficiency, this negative trait be gone. And that's it. It'll listen. That does not seem to be how it works. And that is where the problem ensues. That is where that projection comes in. We are doing essentially the right thing, which is trying to expel the unwanted elements of ourself from ourselves. But we're going about it the wrong way. We want a quick and easy shortcut. And the quick and easy shortcut is to simply state wholesale, this is not in me. Again, anger, greed, selfishness, narcissism, self-centeredness, and so on. Right? None of that, it's not in me. None of that is in me. And it's in you. Right? And it's somewhere else. That's not how it works. How then it would work would be that I, again, should identify the elements about me that are less than ideal, as can be brought to mind by other people, because we see other people oftentimes quite clearly, unlike ourselves. We see ourselves with clouded vision and other people with clear vision most of the time. Right? We see somebody else clearly, that person is greedy. Clearly, that person is a narcissist. Clearly, that person is a sociopath. You ask that person, are you that? What are you talking about? You ask my own self, are you bad? No, I'm not. What are you talking about? So we see ourselves with blurry goggles, so to say. So we can identify the bad things in us by looking at other people, no problem. But then the next step is to find that in ourselves, to say that it's not desirable, and then to begin the long fight to really truly expel it out of oneself, to really truly extricate it from our character. Sometimes that might involve integrating certain elements into our personality, such as it is. So, for example, something like aggression, it's not to say, I just need to erase all of my aggression. I need to be a total passive, placated person. Instead, I can integrate aggression that I have into my character. I can find appropriate expressions for it, and it can become a healthy part of myself. So sometimes that's the healthy solution. Other times, something does need to be just cut off, and we need to strive against it. For example, if I have a tremendous urge to do something that my mind tells me is wrong, I shouldn't indulge that urge even a little. even if it takes me my whole life, or if that urge, should we say, persists my whole life and it's a battle each and every day, well, then that's how it is. Be a soldier and fight the fight. So there's different approaches here, but what they never involve is to simply lie to ourselves and to deny that we have some trait, to deny that there's something wrong with us, and to see it in other people. And by properly seeing it in ourselves, by properly contending with some poor character trait in ourselves, we can then hopefully kind of grow into a self concerning which bad elements are genuinely extraneous to. Meaning, when we project the greed and the narcissism and the selfishness, it's really in here. I deny it and I see it out there. If we properly deal with it, then the greed and the selfishness and the narcissism and so forth can truly be out there and not in here. And one sign of that would be that the faults of others do not, we could say, trigger us, at least emotionally. It does not mean that a person that is properly worked out is blind to how other people are, and he or she cannot, on principle, see the faults of others. But it is so that a person that has not denied their own poor traits, but has worked with them, integrated them, expelled them as needed in an authentic way, is not emotionally triggered by seeing the faults of others, because it's just not something that triggers those emotional hairs. Again, ego certainly hates egos. Pride certainly hates pride. Greed certainly hates greed. Hatred hates hatred. But if I really don't have those traits because I've worked them through, I've assimilated them, I've expelled them, whatever I needed to do, but again, in an honest, authentic way, when I see those traits in others, I can be tolerant. Like, well, this person is not quite as mature as hopefully they one day will be. It's okay. It's no big deal. So that would be one sign that I'm triggered less because I'm finding all of that in myself more. So to briefly summarize and conclude, projection is a term that can refer to seeing hateful elements in oneself in others, while simultaneously denying that they exist in ourselves at all. This comes from a good place, we could say, even if unwittingly. That being that we want to have a good self and we want to think highly of ourselves. And ourself is not a kind of set thing that with absolutely impermeable boundaries, but is something that can change and grow and modify and take things in and expel things throughout our lifetimes. So the idea is good. I want everything bad to be out there and not in here. But the only way for that to be authentic and not deceit would be to identify, first of all of the bad things in here and then properly contend with them. Sometimes that means integrating them into our character. Sometimes that means continually fighting them and expelling them. But either way, it means facing them and working with them and working through them. And that is the better alternative to unconscious projection. So we can consider it. Thank you for listening.